I read on your website about the unique terroir of where your specific vineyard is. Could you please talk a little bit about that terroir, but also specifically how it translates into what you're tasting and what benefits Tuscany provides winemakers?
Sure. Is actually one of the fundamental of Il Borro because when the Ferragamo family bought the estate, there was a little Syrah because we are in the Arezzo Cortona area, where one of the best Syrah probably in Italy are grown. And the idea was really to make some wine just for the village. Is the medieval village, which today is a hotel, the Relais Chateaux, and just to have one restaurant to serve the wine for this restaurant. There was no idea, of producing more wine and sell it around the world. And then they understood there was, a lot of particular quality in this terroir. And to answer your question, Tuscany is probably the most exciting of all the region in Italy, maybe with Piedmont, and because it's not very big, but it has different terroir. You go to Montalcino, and you have a particular one. You go to Bulgari on the coast, you have different grapes. It's all within 2 hours. You go to Montepulciano, the Chianti Senesi. I mean, there is very, very many areas for white and reds.
It so if I'm interpreting what you're saying correctly, are you saying the soil and the topography changes more in a smaller space?
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely. And the beauty of Tuscany is because it's very different. There's a lot of you got the ocean, you got the city like Florence, but you got the hillside. You got very different microclimates, they call it. There is many, I think over 100. And the beauty of it, Borro, for where we are, first with the terroir because it was an ancient lake and it's full of minerality. And the minerality is very essential to wine, and sometimes, even in Tuscany, especially on the coast where there's more sandy soil, is very hard to find. We look in California, California, it lacks a little minerality, and that's what you don't have in sometime in those wines. But going back to Tuscany, we found out without probably I would say without knowing that where Il Borro is, there is different microclimate and different terroir, and that's why was decided first to plant, of course, the Sangiovese because it's the king of grape in Tuscany, but then to try with the Cabernet and then to try with the Merlot. And if you come and visit, you'll see that all planted in different part of the state. It's not, that we have a field with 4 grapes and then another field with another 3 grapes. Every grapes belong to a particular site of the estate, starting, with the Syrah and the Cabernet on the bottom, and going up with the Merlot where there is some clay, and going all the way up to about 500 meters, 400, 500, with the Sangiovese and the Chardonnay right on the top.
the
Okay,
Il Borro vineyard itself, are there different types of soil composition on the vineyard?
absolutely,
Ah, so that
absolutely.
allows you to offer more variety in your wines than, say, somebody in, say, I don't know, say Sonoma. It seems like in Europe, the the soil can change more quickly in smaller areas as opposed to the United States. Do you think that's because I take, for example, what you just told me? It also makes me think. I know there are areas in France where you can be on one side of the road and the soil's like that, but then on the other side, the soil is completely different.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't know too much. It's very interesting that matter. I know that is all geological. So if you think the biggest geological, just think about how many, or even the biggest volcano area. They're probably in Italy, with Pompeii in Campania, with the Etna in Sicily, where fantastic wines are coming out. There was a lot of dramatic geological changes, especially in Europe, also in the United States or other part of the world. But that, I think, it was very important to kind of mix up with the soil underneath and create this mountain range. You just think the north of Italy with the Dolomites, and the whole mountain actually goes all the way in the central part of Tuscany, and we are actually at the bottom of that mountain range. And also that, influence a lot the type of wine, not only the soil, but we have an amazing, I think probably one of the more drastic weather change between the very hot summer day, you get over 100, and that's why the Syrah, because the Syrah needs that. And then at night, it can drop 20, 25 degrees or even more so quick. And that definitely reflects into the grape.
That makes me wonder, based on your point about how the volcanoes, Pompeii and Etna, may affect, that makes me wonder if the Mount St. Helens in Washington State will have some of that effect.
Absolutely. I would think so.
Interesting. Now,
I've never thought about that, but yeah, you would think so. Absolutely.
To me, every formation, even from the river, I'm thinking I lived a couple of years. I had the luck to live in Montalcino, and the whole structure. When we think of Montalcino, we think of one place, but it's actually 4 different sides, and depends where a river, flows, because in the summer it will cool down, but then it warms up at night in the winter because that flowing. It's really amazing, the combination. The microclimate are fundamental, and in Italy you can find so many different, especially in Tuscany. And it makes all this exciting wine because all the wines in Tuscany from different places in Tuscany, they're very different. I think Tuscany is probably smaller than Texas. I don't know.
It is. It's smaller. Yeah.
Within that region, you have more region than the French as in France, if you think about it.
So Italy has more microclimates than other parts of Europe?
I think than any other part of the world, because if you grow, we have 22 regions in every region. I mean, there is more than 1,000, which is 1,300 type of grapes. You must have different soil and climate because there are not 1,300 different way of making wine.
Right.
It's 1,300 different grapes and combination that makes it a huge amount, and food is related to wine. Yeah. That's why you can find so much differences in Italy, which I found that one of the most exciting. There is many others. There is Greece, there is Spain, even France, food and wine, and many others. But staying with Tuscany is definitely one of the most interesting in Italy.